Hey guys, hope you're all doing great and having a fantastic day. We've got the Samsung Galaxy Book 2 Pro 360 here, and in this video, we're going to go over 10 plus tips and tricks to get the most out of this laptop. Without further delay, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Tip number one, let's extend the battery standby time. So this laptop does pretty good on battery. Like I get about 7 to 9 hours, gets me through a full work day. Keep the brightness down to about 75%, no problems. I'm very happy with it. However, myself and many other people aren't so thrilled with the standby time on this machine. So when you close the lid and put it into sleep mode, it's going to drain about 1% per hour, give or take. I lose about 25 to 30% per day. All right, so we are going to go ahead and open up Control Panel. All right. I recommend switching to large icons instead of category. That way you can go right down to Power Options. Click on that. All right, we have these options here for what we want to do when we shut the lid, right, on the left-hand side. Let's go ahead and click on that. And you'll see we have different options for when we press the power button, and we have different options for when we close the lid. So the default is for all of these to be sleep. This is what it's going to be like when you get it out of the factory, which means when you close this lid, it's going to go into sleep. When you press the power button, it goes into sleep. Everything you do puts it into sleep. Here's my recommendation. Take this and switch it to shutdown. Go ahead and save your changes. So now when you shut the lid, it's going to turn your power off, and you'll be able to let this sit for days, weeks, whatever you want, without hardly any of your battery draining. So this is great when you wrap up a weekend or something like that, go out of town, and you go back to your machine, you're now going to have whatever battery you left off with it. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, that's nice and great, but I go to class a lot, I go to work and take my laptop to meetings, and I need to be able to close my lid and then open it back up and get right back to where I'm at. So this isn't going to work for me. Well, yeah, it is. It still does. Remember, the default setting for pressing the power button is to put it into sleep. Let's go ahead and do that. Press the power button. The machine's now in sleep. Now you can go ahead and close your lid, put it in your bag, head off to your next class, go to your next meeting at work. All right? Go ahead and lift this up. Bam, it just came out of sleep. You're right back where you were. So what I'm saying is the power button behavior will trump the lid behavior. So if you put it into sleep first, it will go into sleep and stay into sleep, and closing the lid will not turn off the power. But however, if you're at the end of your work day, let's say you're all done now, you're all closed up, you're ready to go, don't press the power button, close the lid, watch what happens when we open it back up. Nothing. All right, we press and hold the power button just for a couple seconds and let off. You'll see the Samsung logo. Look how fast this boots up. It's going to be pretty fast, guys. We're in. Go ahead and do the fingerprint. There we are. We're at boot up. That's my first tip in getting the most out of this battery over an extended period of time. All right, guys. My next tip for this machine, uninstall McAfee. McAfee virus scanner comes pre-installed on here. You're going to get a 30-day trial. You're going to get nag screens that come up in your notification panel like the one you're seeing here about every 10 to 15 minutes, and it will start to drive you insane. By the time you get to week 2, it probably will make you go insane. I am not a fan of McAfee. Hey, if you're a die-hard, lifelong McAfee user, please don't be offended by my suggestion. Go ahead and roll with your bad self and stick with McAfee and enjoy it. But for the 99% of the rest of us that don't want bloatware and we don't want stuff that is going to sit there and hog down our CPU, suck up our memory, suck up our utilization, I highly recommend ditching this application, this virus scanner. And what do you want to go with? Windows Defender. Windows Defender works great now. In the last 4 or 5 years, it has come a long ways. And if you're not happy with it, go ahead and grab one of the free third-party offerings. There's a ton of them out there. So to get this uninstalled, you're going to want to go ahead and download the MCPR tool. You can find that on Google. Just search for it real quick. Follow the prompts. Get rid of McAfee. All right, guys, this next tip is to help you get the most out of the audio performance of the Galaxy Book 2 Pro 360. When you go online and look around, you'll see a whole group of users that say, wow, the audio sounds fantastic. And then you'll find a whole nother group of users that say, wow, the audio is terrible on this machine. Well, I think I know the reason why. We have a group of users over here that have Dolby Atmos with spatial audio turned on. And then we have this group of users over here that have Dolby Atmos completely turned off. And it does make a huge enough difference to where it's going to separate people in their feelings about this audio. Let me go ahead and show you how to enable this, and I'll give you a demonstration of the difference that it makes, all right? So we're going to go ahead and go to the Start menu, go to Dolby Access, see if I can type right. All right, we're going to open this up. When this opens, you're going to want to go over to the settings panel, okay? And you're going to see here that I have mine turned off, disable all speaker and headphone effects. So if I go to my YouTube channel and play a little bit of some audio for you guys, I have the volume here turned all the way up. I also have it turned all the way up on the laptop, all right? This is max setting. Let's go ahead and listen just for a little bit. This is all settings off. Like you would from your gallery. Let's go ahead and do that as an example real quick. So let's go ahead and pick this blue one since this shows up well on camera. We'll just click on it. All right, we'll go down here and click download. Okay. All right, that's what it sounds like with Dolby Atmos turned off. Let's go back over to the Dolby Access application. Let's turn this on, okay? We're telling it now not to disable all the effects. And by default, it picks dynamic. We can also come down here to custom. And you'll see here we have this surround virtualizer. You want to make sure this is on. This is really going to widen up the sound and make it feel a lot fatter. It's also going to help increase the volume. Let me show you the difference. We'll go back here. Starting download. Download completed. Listen how much louder that is. Go ahead and go to your home screen. Pinch in to go to your wallpapers and style. Sounds a lot fatter. Go to gallery. You see I've already downloaded it once. Let's go ahead and just pick one. Let's turn that off real quick again so you guys can hear the difference. Hit done. Listen how lower that is. Lock and home screen. It's not even a comparison. It sounds like a completely different machine. Lock and home screen right here. Give it a moment to load. Then you can match it with our material use settings here. Let's go ahead and turn it back on one more time and we'll wrap this up. I think it speaks for itself. So you can just click it on. It'll go back to your last default settings that you had, whatever you picked. Go back here. Hit apply. Wow. There you go. Nice looking clean wallpaper. These are all free, designed for the Tab S8 Ultra. Again, this is phonewalls.com. It'll be linked down in the description. All this stuff will be linked down in the description. I think the results speak for themselves, guys. I don't know how well that's going to come through on my lav mic, but I can assure you in person, it is substantially louder, substantially fuller. It's a whole different landscape of sound once you enable that Dolby setting in the Dolby Access application. Check this setting out. It'll definitely help out your audio. All right, so we just talked about improving the audio. Let's talk about increasing the brightness, right? So the newer model compared to last year's does get quite a bit brighter. Samsung claims about 33%. I'm not too sure about that, but it is quite a bit brighter. But we can make it even brighter on top of that. Let me go ahead and show you how. All right, go down to the Start menu. You're going to start typing the word Intel, and you should see Intel Graphics Command Center. Go ahead and click on that. All right, it's going to load up a little applet. It takes a little while. Just give it a moment. All right. So on here on the left-hand side, you're going to see an icon that looks like a display, and it'll even say display when you hover over it. Sorry, let me slow down there a little bit. Go ahead and click on that. All right. And you're going to go ahead and click on color. And you're going to see this brightness enhancement right here down in the middle. You're going to want to leave it on all colors. There's all colors and there's RGB. Pick all colors. And the default setting is going to be 38. All right, so we're at 38. We can go ahead and raise this up. We can increase the maximum brightness and we can lower this down. Keep in mind, I have the brightness all the way up. You see here I'm toggling it. All right, and if you want to lock your function row, guys, it's just function F12. All right, I've got it locked. So I've got the brightness all the way up, and you can see here, we can go above the default 38 and make the screen even brighter. Keep in mind, when you get past about 55, 60, the screen's going to start to look a little bit washed out, so don't take this setting to the extreme. But you know, if you crank it up to that setting around there, it's going to look pretty good, and you'll get a lot more brightness. This definitely helps when you're going outdoors. I'm going to put mine back to 38. All right, we're back to the defaults. So if you want to get some more brightness out of your screen, head over into the Intel Graphics Control Center. All right, guys, my next tip involves transporting this laptop or carrying it around from room to room. So there's been a few complaints on Reddit. I've actually had a couple show up on my channel as well. People talking about the lower part of the screen cracking on them. So I want to show you a tip on how to circumvent this and try to help you to protect this from happening, all right? So when you have the laptop closed, I highly recommend that you don't grab it right here between the hinges. If you're going to grab it on this part of the laptop, I recommend grabbing over here by this hinge, over here by this hinge, or the best spot to really grab it is to flip it around and to carry it down here by the trackpad. All right, because there's a little bit of flex, there's a little bit of give between this hinge and where it sits on the keyboard. It's not as bad on this year's model as last year's Galaxy Book Pro 360. However, there is that little bit of flex. So I strongly suggest not putting too much pressure on the middle of this part of the laptop. So just get used to carrying it over here on these sides, down here by the trackpad, and I think that will alleviate you from having to worry about getting any cracks in this bottom part of the screen. All right, guys, so the next couple of tips aren't necessarily specific to the Galaxy Book2 Pro 360. They're for all Windows 10 and Windows 11 machines, but they're both very helpful, especially now that this machine uses Windows 11. The first one is to enable Windows God Mode. So you may have seen this before, and if not, it's really cool. So let me give an example of what we're missing out on with Windows 11. So if you see here, I right-click on my taskbar, you basically have nothing. You get taskbar settings, right? We don't have the ability to, let's say, pull up the task manager, right? So now you have to pull Control-Shift-Escape. That'll load it up like we have here. Well, with Windows God Mode, you'll be able to get to all the functionality that you're used to having in previous versions of Windows right from your desktop. So the way to do it is to just right-click on your desktop. You're going to create a new folder, all right? And then you will give it the name that I'm going to put here on the screen, and I'll also drop it down in the description so you can just copy and paste it. And once you put that in here as a name and you press enter, it's going to create a folder that looks like this here in the middle of my screen. You'll see that there's no title underneath it, right? There's no description like new folder or new folder 2. When you double click it, it pulls up a God Mode folder. So you're going to get functionality to do all these different tasks that are kind of buried everywhere on your system. And now they're available to you via this one quick shortcut. And there's a lot of functionality to this Windows God Mode. I recommend you check out a couple of YouTube videos on it, but I wanted to introduce you to it if you haven't heard of it yet. Windows God Mode, a nice way to get at a lot of your sysadmin features right from one handy shortcut. All right, guys, so this next tip is to help you move your taskbar from the center over to the left like we used to have in Windows 10 and previous versions. A lot of you know this, a lot of you don't. Let me just share it real quick because it's nice and easy. Just right-click on the taskbar, go to Taskbar Settings. All right, you're going to scroll down just a little bit till you get to the taskbar behavior. Click on that, and you'll see here we have taskbar alignment. The default is center. You can go ahead and move it over to the left. Let's go ahead and do that real quick. Taskbar, back over to like Windows 10 type setting right here. I'm going to go ahead and move it back to the center. All right, so if you want to move that around, quick tip to get you back to old school Windows. All right, the next tip that I have is to also save more battery. And this is also great for those of you that go in and out of meetings and you need to quiet your machine down, all right? Because this thing does have fans that can roar up on you. And that is a quick toggle to switch between your performance settings. So by default, when you first power up the machine, you'll have to press Function and the F11 key. I tend to press Function F12 to lock the function row. And that way I can just toggle between the performance settings with F11. And here you'll see on the screen, we're going to toggle through them real quick. High performance. Silent mode, you'll want to switch to this when you walk into meetings at work or if you head into the classroom and you're just taking notes. And then you can bump it up to quiet, or the mode that I stay in the most is optimized. And we have one more, and that's high performance. This is for when you're gaming or doing video editing, you'll get the most performance out of the performance cores, especially on like this 1260p processor we have on this flagship model. So using this performance toggle is a nice way to get your fans to quiet down and to get your performance back up in the situations in which you need it. All right, guys, my next suggestion to you is not to sleep on Samsung notes, right? So you just click here on your desktop. It's going to pull them up, view all notes. And when you open up a note for editing, you have more options on this Galaxy Book2 Pro 360 than you do on any of the other machines. We've talked about this in the past couple videos, to where you have your palette, your color palette, your brush strokes, everything that you want right here on the screen at the same time as the actual canvas you're working on. I really love Samsung Notes on the Galaxy Book2 Pro 360, and I like it more than last year's. It's a little bit faster on the pen latency. We talked about that before in a previous video. The overall writing experience on here is tremendous. I'll go as far as saying it's second to none compared to any other laptop. Don't sleep on Samsung Notes. Awesome built-in functionality. You get the pen included for free. All right, guys, the next tip that I have, this is another like don't sleep on type thing, is don't sleep on the Samsung settings. All right, let's go ahead and open those up real quick. Inside here, you'll have all kinds of different advanced settings for your Wi-Fi, your sound, your display. You have some, and this is how you can enable your HDR and vivid mode and switch between dark mode and light mode. Focus mode, which is really cool. This will basically make it to where the screen you're looking at has focus, where everything else gets kind of blurry. You can go into advanced features here. This is where you can turn on multi-control, so you can control your Tab S8 Ultra right next to the side of you, or whatever tablet you may have from Samsung. Studio mode, which gives you some more effects and processing abilities for when you're using the webcam. You can turn on auto booting for when you open the lid, it'll automatically boot. You can turn quick settings on and off. We talked about the performance toggle earlier. You can get to those performance settings here manually. You also have the ability to turn your USB ports on for charging other devices or to keep that off to conserve power. You can turn on battery protection to limit the maximum charging to 85%. This is great if you throw it on the charger overnight and you don't want to peg that battery out while you're charging it. And you also have some keyboard settings that let you affect the backlighting and how long it stays on, and if it should auto turn itself off. So don't forget that you have these additional Samsung settings on top of the Windows settings. This is all part of the One UI Book 4 implementation that's on this laptop. Samsung settings, don't forget about it. And while we're talking about this too, one thing you shouldn't forget about as well, let's go ahead and just piggyback right over to it, is Samsung Update. All right, so go ahead and click on this, give it a moment to load up. This is basically a little control panel for making sure that all of the Samsung specific applications that are installed here remain up to date. This is where you'll also find applications like the continuity service, which are all responsible for multi-control. You'll see here I have a few updates available, and that's exactly what I mean. If you go more than like a week without checking this, you're likely going to have updates pending. So you want to check your Samsung Update control panel, so to speak, often. All right, guys, and the last tips that I want to share with you, and this is more for those of you that are thinking about buying this machine or if you've just purchased it. The one recommendation I really have to you guys, be patient. Be patient the first 2, 3, 4, even 5 days with this machine. And the reason I say that is because I've seen more updates come across for this particular laptop than any laptop I've probably owned in my life. And I've owned a lot of laptops. I mean, between Windows pushing out updates and Samsung pushing out updates via the Samsung Update we just looked at, this thing gets updates on almost a daily basis, especially when you first get it. So when you do first get this machine, the fans are going to be roaring often. You're going to have updates and processes happening in the background that you're not even going to be really aware of unless you're looking for them. And it is going to bog the machine down a little bit. However, once it gets all those updates done and you do a couple BIOS updates, like I just had another one come through a couple days ago, get the firmware updated, all the Windows updates, this machine starts to run very well. The fans start to not kick up as much. It starts to perform like you would expect. So that's just one huge recommendation I have for you guys that are just getting this machine. Be patient. The battery life's going to improve on you. It's going to stabilize. You're going to have like 100+ updates get applied to this thing. Several reboots later, everything's going to be fine. All right, guys. That's all I got for the Galaxy Book 2 Pro 360. It's my first round of tips and tricks for it. I might do a supplemental video about this in the future. If you have any suggestions or feedback, please drop them in the comments, and I really do appreciate your support. As always, guys, thanks for watching.